I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another Office Hours live stream. Hopefully it'll go okay. I have sort of a topic that I thought about a little bit, but it's been a crazy few days. My daughter being sick, really wintry, icky weather to be traveling in today, which I had to travel in. Last couple days, doing a lot of driving and such, and with my daughter. And then tonight, I had to do my EU book study. If you missed that, we were just doing Dark Empire 2, discussing that. We missed it. We usually do it Fridays, so we just did it. Al and I just finished it up almost like 10 minutes before I jumped on stream here. So I'm going to try and get my brain in working order and still have some focus and coherence tonight. But welcome to you. I hope your week was great. Also, happy Feast of the Epiphany for those Christians who celebrate. This is the day where it's celebrated that the wise men, the Magi, coming to visit the baby Jesus. So really great little kind of end cap to the Christmas season for me anyway. Hope you guys have been well. Let's see who we have here. Going back up to the top of the chat. Ghost Planet Max Inc. was here first, as usual. Great to see you there. Always good to have you. Darth Enigma, welcome. Yeah, well, that thumbnail is pretty provocative, right? We'll talk about some of that stuff. Leia Plus Size, good to see you. Spidey Rules, Samuel Proctor, great to see you. Samuel Proctor talking about being kind of ill. Yeah, a lot of the illnesses are going around. Apparently a stomach bug is going around, as well as just some bad, some just wicked colds too. Not even necessarily, respiratory infections, but just, wicked colds I'm hearing about. Luckily, thank God I've been healthy thus far. When I get sick, it's not usually, once every few years, I might get the flu where I'm just really like, oh man, this thing's lingering forever. But for the most part, I've got a pretty darn good immune system. And thankfully, which is a good thing, right? Because having to take care of my daughter and do all this kind of stuff, I really can't afford to be laid up, for any amount of time. But luckily, I've been missing all this gunk out there. Hopefully, I'll continue to. We shall see. Who else is here with us? Of course, my dear sound engraver's here. Always monitoring the stream, making sure everything's good for me. Final Fantasy fan, good to see you there. Divinital Kayan, Alec Purdue, great to see you. Yo, you're not late, just starting there, Alec Purdue. Dread Pirate Bromando, cool name, good to see you. Luis Sanchez, Private Eye, AI, or AL, I'm sorry, AI. AL, good to see you there. Yeah, so I titled the stream, the responsibility of story. And in the thumbnail talking about there is a responsibility linked to story that Hollywood, I say misunderstands. I don't think they understand it at all. I just think they like to try and come up with a different kind of responsibility sometimes. But let's just start with the idea of responsibility in general before we even get to what Hollywood's doing with it. Because this is something that some people refuse to acknowledge. Responsibility is a very dirty word in today's culture anyway. Because responsibility makes demands on us. To acknowledge that we are responsible for something that demands something from us, whether you're responsible for a loved one, or responsible for the commitments you make in life, responsible for something at work. You have these demands. You have certain things that are expected of you and that you need to do properly. And this is where I run up against the people who refuse to believe that there's anything objective about art or writing or story. Oh, it's just all subjective. That's baloney. That's just utter nonsense. On the one hand, it's tied to your worldview, right? If you're a moral relativist, or you just don't really have any kind of belief in any kind of absolute morality in the world, period, then it'll be easier to think this. But even those people won't truly think this. If all art is subjective, then I mean, hey, snuff films and kiddie porn might not be your thing, but hey, who are we to criticize it, man? Because other people might really find merit in that artistic merit. I mean, that's the ultimate end to that argument, and it's absurd. It's ridiculous. Art is objective. There's a craft to it that must be learned depending on what medium you're working through. And writing is no different. But even beyond the craft of writing, for whatever medium you're writing for, there's also the responsibility you have to story. Story isn't just mindless entertainment as much as people want it to be, as much as some people are desperate to only see it as mindless entertainment, because then they don't have to think or be responsible for any of the choices they make in that mindless entertainment. But before we even get, and that's been a point of my channel, pointing out how, yes, the stories you consume are going to affect you psychologically, individually. It's going to, the stories you support are going to stick around in culture more, and they're going to have an effect on culture and so forth. So it is true. You do have sort of a responsibility to that as a viewer that we'll talk about a little bit later. But writers also have a responsibility. Now, I don't mean to saddle writers, with like, oh, you've got to be, think about this too much. It depends on what you're writing, right? Just the person who's got an idea for a story, you might just sum up their responsibilities to be true to the story they're writing, do the best job they can, try to learn the craft, try to make something beautiful, uh, in that respect, writing shouldn't be seen any differently than, say, carpentry. You can't want to be a carpenter, but just not really spend too much time learning the trade and whatever. I think this will work to build this staircase. Well, people are going to hurt themselves in that staircase if you're not knowing what you're doing and really don't study up and make sure that you've done a great job with whatever your design and idea and concept for the staircase was, right? It's the same thing with story. If you don't do it well, you could cause some discomfort at the least, shall we say, in those who follow the story. And, this is where, like in the thumbnail, we get somebody like Zack Snyder with Rebel Moon. It's cracking me up that people actually are shocked. Rebel Moon, did you hear how bad this? Oh my gosh, this and that. It's Zack Snyder. He's not a storyteller. He cannot tell a good story. He's a visual artist. He loves to think about themes. He loves to think about, his sort of worldview he wants to put into his visual art, but he can't tell a coherent story. He's never been able to. The best work he's ever done has been on a already firmly established and put together story, something like Watchmen. That's, if you look at his body of work, that might rise to the top because it was already based on a very firmly set story. And no, he's not the screenwriter for everything he does, but the director still pulls, has the final say. And it's very telling, all of his work. I'm sorry, if you can't tell your story in a decent amount of time, if you need the Snyder cut for everything, which apparently there's a Snyder cut, that they're going to try to, or at least the fans are pushing for Rebel Moon too. Although I don't even know if they're really fans for Rebel Moon. Even the Snyder Bros are kind of thinking, like, how can you really support that mess? I mean, that's just a big gobbledygook of mess. It's so derivative. It's so obviously derivative. you don't have time to even give a crap about any of the characters. So this guy dies, that guy, whatever. It's just, it's typical Zack Snyder. Learn your craft before you're going to try and tell somebody a story, because telling a story is, if you really go into a story, if you're a reader or watching a movie or even following the story of a video game, you have to open yourself up. There's a vulnerability, a psychological vulnerability that you lend, or that you acquiesce of yourself to this story. And that's true. If you're paying attention to the story at all, that's there. You can deny it if you want, but it is there. Now, it doesn't mean that story is going to totally wreck you or injure you, but you are a little bit vulnerable in your psyche, because you're suspending some disbelief. You're trying to follow the story. And when somebody doesn't even take the time to learn the craft well, or consistently just can't tell a story, then stop making freaking movies, bro. Enough. Go learn to be a writer, or go subjugate your directorial style to a script. And people are shocked. Why are you shocked that Rebel Moon's a dumpster fire? Of course it is. Of course it is. So you have a responsibility to learn the craft, to realize that the story you create does have the potential to help or harm culture to whatever degree there, who knows. And that's true of anybody writing any story. But where cultural responsibility really comes in is writers who are hired to write for beloved franchises, for stories or universes or continuities that already have a very firm place in our culture, that already do cultural work, in our culture. So people writing characters like Superman, like Captain America, people writing characters like that, like Star Wars, people writing characters like that and universes like that have a huge responsibility. You don't step into that role lightly. And more we're seeing this flippant attitude. Whatever. No, I'm a writer. I do what I want. The writer's job isn't to give people what they want. It's to make them, give them what they don't even know they want. David Goyer is famous for expressing that stupid attitude. Tom Brevoort, the idiotic editor at Marvel, who has just greenlit some of the most insane decisions ever, just ruining these characters left and right. He said, as I think it was Tom Brevoort said of the Spider-Man undoing in the Mary Jane, marriage and whatnot, he's like, it may not taste good, but you need to take your medicine. It's good for you. I mean, how does anybody read anything this man presides over after that moment? I mean, the condescension, the utter disdain for anybody that dare disagree with his story taste. I mean, that's just that you don't forgive something like that when it comes from a storyteller. You stop patroning him at the very least. My goodness. So a lot of writers and a lot of the woke ideologues who cannot handle criticism will throw that out. No, it's our stories. We're the writers. We're the ones that make the decisions. And you just, you sit with it and deal with it. No, if you're writing for beloved cultural franchises, I've used the example before, and I'll use it again because it's just such a great one. The late, great Denny O'Neil, who was the longtime editor and writer for Batman, wrote wonderful stories. He had a long career. And, at times he tried to go this way or that way with a character that might have been wrongheaded. I mean, he's famously the one who was trying to write the line of Wonder Woman where she loses her powers and gives up the costume and all this kind of stuff, which was silly. He realized it was silly, admitted it was silly, and they did away with that nonsense. But he really learned a lot over his tenure, and he has a great story. He was the editor of the Batman comics at the time when they were killing off Jason Todd. They had done the contest. If you don't know, Jason Todd was the second Robin, and he developed into kind of a brat. He wasn't really well liked too much. He wasn't that at first, but they kind of developed like that in continuity. And they did a contest where you could call these 1-900 numbers as a comic reader and vote. Should he live? Should he not survive this encounter he has with the Joker? And the fans basically voted for him to die. Now that hit the news. And all it was portrayed in the news, because journalists, are epically irresponsible. They just are. It's the nature of journalism. It's about those attention-grabbing headlines more than it is about any kind of factual information. So all they were writing in the headlines was DC kills off Robin. Well, you had a lot of people who grew up with like Batman 66 or the comic books and didn't necessarily follow them, but they knew Batman and Robin, and they thought, well, they're killing off Dick Grayson. They're killing off the beloved, Burt Ward character that I knew or something like that. And that wasn't the case. And Denny O'Neil tells a story of he was in a deli at some point for lunch around this time when this stuff was in the news about Robin was going to die. And he had a little Batman pin he wore on his lapel. And somebody asked him, well, what's that for? And he said, well, I'm the editor, of DC Comics, of Batman Comics. And the guy looks, he says, hey, Joe, this is the schmuck over here who's going to kill off Robin. They were very angry with him about this. And rather than, throw his nose up in the air and say, I'm the editor, I get to choose, and you just shut up and take what I give you. No, Denny O'Neil said in that moment, he realized, I'm not just a writer. I'm not just an editor. I'm a caretaker of American folklore, and people are going to be very upset and very invested and concerned and interested in the choices we make with these characters because they're bigger than us. These characters belong to the culture. They do a certain cultural work. People look to these characters for inspiration. They look to these characters for this and that. You don't just get to be hired and then do whatever the freak you want. That's absolutely not true. And I'll always admire Denny O'Neil for having that realization and sharing it with others. I think way more people who work in the industry today need to realize that. They'll refuse to. They can't take criticism, especially the woke ideologues. They are there for what they think their responsibility to story is to preach their agenda. But that's not a responsibility of story at all. That's just an allegiance they have to a pre-established ideology that they bring in to their work as writer or storyteller. Again, it's the same thing as the Christian sitting down and saying, I need to write a Christian movie. It's going to suck because you're not sitting down as a writer first. You're sitting down as somebody with a pre-established message that you want to get across. And the story is just the vehicle for this message. And as long as the message is preached, that's all you really want. So what if the story's crap? So, especially writers who take on these characters, Star Wars, as I said in the thumbnail there, Star Wars and Snow White, finish that thumbnail. You have a responsibility to do right by these characters in terms of the work they do in culture. How beloved are they in culture? And again, the classic example of that is Zack Snyder just deciding he was going to deconstruct Superman top to bottom. I mean, just how utterly presumptuous and insane that was, and it bit him in the butt big time and good enough for him. I really don't see how after Rebel Moon the man will get any work. It's kind of funny how occasionally 3 or 4 Snyder bros try to come around him and try to pretend that he's some great uber mensch of storytelling, and he's not. But the media gets kind of duped into that now and then with the Snyder cut. Oh, give us the Snyder cut. It's going to be great. It's going to fix everything. You doubters will see. Yeah, the Snyder cut sucked. Even worse than the other one. It's awful. Super chat from my dear sweet sound engraver said, honestly, editors have a responsibility to readers as Superman has to Metropolis. The public would rightfully act against Supes making bad decisions. Yeah, when you're writing mythology, now the characters are always legally the copyright holder's characters, right? I can't go write and sell my own Superman story. But the characters, culturally, they belong to culture. We decide as a culture whether or not we're going to keep that character popular, whether or not we're going to keep that character making money for their copyright holders. And the ultimate decisions we should be making, or the criteria we should be making those decisions on, are how well are these people handling the characters. Now we're in a really weird and bizarre place now, which kind of crosses over into story readers or moviegoers, their responsibility. What is your responsibility as a moviegoer or as a reader? And you do have a responsibility. As I say, my channel's built on this: consume stories responsibly. And people do not like to hear this. Oh my gosh, don't dare tell somebody they just can't go out and recklessly watch whatever they want to, because, and when they're that sensitive about it, you realize that's all they really want. It's not really about quality of story. It's just about being able to consume. And again, we've talked about this before on my channel. It's usually because they really want is community. They really want to be in the know. They really want to be able to follow a current hashtag. They want to be able to follow their favorite talking head on YouTube, who's going to smash this movie and lambast it, and they have to go see it, and they have to watch all the reviews. So, ha ha ha, did you see so-and-so's video about Snow White? Oh man, did you see so-and-so's video? Oh man, I can't wait to watch so-and-so's video about that. And that's not responsible consumption of stories either. I mean, honestly, folks, I'm speaking to those of you who know good story, those of you who don't like the woke stuff. Okay, there shouldn't be any question that the Star Wars Rey movie, I mean, the woman from the Kamala Khan series, come on, there should be no question, no room, no even remote chance that that movie will somehow actually be pretty good. The Snow White movie, Disney Snow White movie, if that ever ends up getting released, there should be no question that that movie's actually got any merit. We know what they're doing. We know what they're going to do ground up. If you go see those movies, if you believe, if you're against that kind of woke ideologue nonsense and stories, if you want good stories, and you dupe yourself into seeing that film, you are 100% the problem. 100% the problem. I'll say even more than that. If you go look up all these YouTube reviewers who are going to go see that movie and review it, why were people bothering to review the Marvels? Was there any question that I mean, again, from a mindset that doesn't want this woke crap, was there any question? Was there any, chance that that movie might be good? No, there wasn't. Why did these channels go out there and get their ticket on opening day and make sure they got their review up just as fast as they could, recording outside the theater or on their way home from the theater or whatever? This is just clickbaiting. They just want the money. They want the sensational title of the YouTube video. That's all they want. They're not fighting a good fight. They're just using the outrage. They're riding the algorithm. They want the money. That's all. And why are we rewarding these people? If you really care about culture, if you really want better stories, that's not doing it. That's just feeding the monster that keeps these stories coming. We would not have, that's just a simple truth. We would not be getting a new Rey Skywalker film. We would not be getting a new movie with that character if people didn't just squee all over the place about the Mandalorian, and there's a civil war in Lucasfilm. Guys, go, you gotta go support Favreau because he and Filoni, they're fighting for us. Disney played you chumps like a fiddle. They knew what they were doing. They played you masterfully. And you bunch of idiotic chumps just fell for it. And some of you are still trying to pretend that, no, that was real. Okay. I mean, it is laughable. It is like, that's textbook. That should be taught. That's a masterful move that Disney did. That should be taught in a classroom of business. If everybody turns against your brand, because when was the turn against? Disney didn't care that you didn't like the sequel trilogy. They didn't care. They didn't. When people ignored Solo, a Star Wars story, apathy is the only thing that scares them. Apathy is the only thing that will get them to do anything to set up and take notice. I don't care how much money the shareholders are really kind of angry with Bob Iger about losing, and none of that's going to change. None of that changes anything. Apathy, making them culturally irrelevant. It is the only thing that works. It's the only thing that's going to bring about any change. People can't do it. People got to plug in. People got to be in the know. Gotta. So, that's how people drop the ball on their responsibility all the time when it comes to writers and or people who consume stories, readers, film goers, etc. I also missed a super chat here from Alec Purdue. So sorry about that, Alec Purdue. You said Antonio Gramsci is the root of this thinking. Yeah, I mean, I haven't followed a lot of the news, so I just don't care. In fact, when it came out, I thought that would already a thing. Maybe it was just rumors before, but she's been, trying to paint it. From what I was told, I think Sound Engraver told me that the director for the new Star Wars movie that with Rey or whatever is trying to spin it like, look, it's negativity that's being put in the world. Those people who are speaking out against this, movie or whatever, or criticizing it. That's just negativity that shouldn't be in the world, sweetheart. Criticism is valid, and just because somebody criticizes you doesn't mean you can write it off as negativity. Things deserve to be criticized. If you're an artist, if you're putting your art out into the world, or you're trying to say that you're qualified as a director to do this, whatever, then yeah, you deserve criticism. You're going to get criticism. Pull up your pants and be an adult and deal with it. Um, so yeah, this kind of thinking is just ridiculous. It's anytime the creators are trying to shame you as an audience. Um, some video I was watching the other day that was talking about. I think it was a video talking about some of the Easter eggs and things that were in The Empire Strikes Back or something like that. And somehow the guy got on a tangent, and I stopped watching the video after this because he made the comment. He said, "No one hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans." I'm like, oh, shut up. No one cares about Star Wars like Star Wars fans. And if you care about something, yeah, you're going to get angry at certain choices and decisions that are made for it if they're bad. So, but people try to shame you for daring to care about a franchise, daring to care about the work that a story is doing in culture. Because again, it points to responsibility, and responsibility points to, oh no, you mean I can't do something or should do something? Oh, I can't handle that. That's the modern person's you. No, no, don't talk to me about responsibility. I should just be given stuff and do whatever I want, totally free. That just doesn't work. That's not life. Well, I have gone on quite a rant there. Let me check in with the chat a bit before I move forward. I think I got all the super chats. You guys will remind me if I missed anybody, but sorry for missing yours at first there, Alec Purdue. Glad I caught it though. Spidey Rule says, if art is subjective, does that mean I can record a chihuahua taking a dump on a sidewalk and put the video in a museum? You say that as a joke, but I mean, that's Dadaism right there. I mean, but artists already do that kind of nonsense. I mean, that was, the famous, when you look up Dada, the famous upside down urinal, called a fountain. It's just ridiculous. That's already done. That's not even outlandishly funny anymore, because I mean, it's funny, but it's not even that outlandish anymore because people do that. People are that twisted and gone in their thinking about art. Samuel Rogers says, if I hadn't been watching your channel for a while, I know I would have asked objective to what? Yeah, some comments are coming in about the public domain thing. It is a big deal. We should acknowledge that it's a big deal that the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse is now in the public domain. That's a big deal. And I think it's a great step in the right direction. Now, a lot of people who argue that these things shouldn't be in public domain are going to point to things like the Mickey Mouse horror movie that came out just like, the very day that Steamboat Willie Mickey hit the public domain. And that's stupid. I think that's dumb. I think a lot of people are going to use Mickey's likeness now, especially those of us who think that Disney has just become a shell of itself. It's become straight up evil. Disney used to be wonderful, magical. It's straight up evil now. And they're going to use Mickey as a symbol of, they've already done this so far to a certain degree, but they're going to try and do it now. The more freedom they have with the copyright being restricted or lifted. And I don't think Mickey Mouse is a character that should be used like that. I think Mickey Mouse transcends Disney. We should hold him up as a, symbol of what was and what should, still be. It's kind of like if Superman really hit the public domain, and people started, using Superman as a symbol for everything they hated about DC or Warner Brothers. Some will, some will. That's the argument people make against uh, public domain characters, is that, well, then you can't stop them from doing bad stories with them. Well, they're already doing bad stories with them. They're already doing horrible stories with these characters. Public domain just means that someone can actually step in and tell a good story about them now, for crying out loud. So yeah, I'm fully supporting the public domain thing. I would love for, a character like Superman one day to hit public domain. That'd be wonderful. I'd be, man, if the rumblings ever really happened about that, I'd be writing a Superman story in a heartbeat. Uh in some which way or another, because then you could actually do it right. you know um I don't know how this will progress. I can't imagine Disney letting anything else slip. I think the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse was a thing that they had fought against for so long that finally slipped in. I don't know if Disney crumbles and loses a lot of power, maybe more of it will slip into the public domain. But it's an interesting thing to happen. I'm glad it has happened. Got a super chat here from Alec Purdue. Thank you so much, Alec. Said, people who understand the stories will make excellent adaptations, like Mamoru Hosoda's is to Beauty and the Beast, and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Guillermo del Toro. I still haven't seen del Toro's Pinocchio. I need to. Now, Beauty and the Beast was a timeless fairy tale. I still don't think you can. Yeah, you can't do like a Disney version of Beauty and the Beast. But La Belle et la Bête, I mean, that was, that's a timeless fairy tale that obviously Disney drew from. I don't think you can put characters like Chip or Mrs. Potts in your story, obviously. So yeah, copyright's an interesting thing. It's a lot of ins and outs and intricacies. But you're right. You're right. Putting your own spin on things, as you say, adaptations, understanding the stories and making good adaptations, really understanding what these characters are, what their place in culture is, what's the cultural work, why do we love them, and then give us stories in which they're able to do that work to a greater extent or in a new way or so forth. Council of Brazilian Chat says, seriously, dude, watch Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It's a beautiful movie. I like del Toro. I like his films. So, yeah, just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I do like his work. I love Pan's Labyrinth. That was good. Of course, loved Hellboy. Hellboy is one of my favorite superhero films, actually. The first Hellboy. Liked it much better than the second one, actually. I mean, like Hellboy 2, The Golden Kingdom, or whatever it's called. Like the first one even better. Gentle Savage said, Prof, any thoughts on James Gunn saying that he wants Tom King to help him lay the groundwork for the new DC universe, and that Tom King gave him notes on his Superman Legacy script? Yeah, someone mentioned this a little bit at the end of this stream last time. I didn't have a chance to go into it, but Tom King, that just shows, if there was any question of whether or not James Gunn understands Superman or any of these characters that he's writing now, and all the signs point to no on that, right? The very fact that he's titling the universe Gods and Monsters shows that he doesn't have a clue who these characters are, what their real appeal is, what they should be. If there was any doubt, though, his inclusion of Tom King is poison to everything beautiful about the DC characters. He always has been. Tom King does not understand these characters. Tom King is committed to working out his own traumas through these characters. I don't know why Tom King keeps getting work. And to want Tom King, to get Tom King's notes on a Superman script, but a bunch of you chumps are going to go see it. So what can you do? What can you do? Is it even worth getting mad over? You guys will make it a success. You'll go see it. And yeah, it's pathetic. Andre Hernandez, thank you so much for the super chat, says, no thanks to this Rey New Jedi Order movie. I will instead read the actual New Jedi Order series from the wonderful EU. I even heard it's Star Wars at its peak. Yeah, I still haven't read all the New Order series myself. I came to the EU relatively recently. I mean, it was like Last Jedi time when I came to EU, because I'd always heard about it and I always wanted to kind of read it. But when I really took the plunge, it was with the Thrawn trilogy first, which I think is the place that anybody should jump first after having gone in, loving the original trilogy. Not because there's a lot of EU stuff that takes place before the Thrawn trilogy, but the Thrawn trilogy is so masterfully done, and it's done in such a way as a trilogy that really is at a quality level and it pays a good homage to what you've just watched in the original trilogy. So that's a great place to start. It's a place I started, and I did read a few things, kind of going forward, Truce at Bakura and so forth. But then I got in the mindset that I wanted to do it kind of in chronological order. So I went back to the Old Republic, which was wonderful. Love the Old Republic stuff. And but as a result, I didn't go plowing forward into a lot of the new Jedi Order stuff. So I'm still got a lot of that ahead of me, which I'm looking forward to. I agree with you. That's the Star Wars we should be enjoying. Yeah, Gentle Cyrus says Tom King will probably turn Batman into a guy with a bat fetish that wants to kill himself. Oh yeah, Tom King does not understand the character. Some people you just scratch your head. How are they getting work? I mean, has Tom King ever even sold all that well? All he's done is piss people off. I just don't understand. And if you put yourself in James Gunn's shoes for a second, let's try and cut him some slack here, just to point out how still stupid of a decision this is. Let's say that James Gunn, let's say he got this job. He's not really a Superman guy, but he tried to write a script. He's trying to do the best he can. He made some really stupid comments, like calling Superman a big old galoot. And let's just say that when he said that Superman's biggest weakness is that he won't kill, let's just say he just didn't really know what he was saying and he misspoke. Let's just for the sake of argument, let's just cut him all the slack we can. If you're trying to earn goodwill from anybody, if you understand the character and really understand the work he should be doing in culture, and you're trying to earn goodwill from fans, who's the one person in the world you shouldn't have work on your script or be on your counsel in any way? It's Tom King. I mean, and to go to that just shows me again how much this man does not understand the character. He doesn't get what he's doing at all. The suit reveal will come out eventually. It won't have the trunks, and he'll, blue and blah, and already the things he said about any critique that comes to him about, oh, you got too many characters or whatever. He's given this very sort of, abrupt, like, I do what I want. No, I know why I need this. It's just, your critiques are ridiculous. That's his kind of the spirit of all of his responses already. And again, if you're working with characters that people love, like if I was writing a franchise, if I was writing Superman or Star Wars or anything like that, I wouldn't write it unless I really had a love for the characters and love for the universe and felt like I really knew this cultural work they were doing. But if I was writing a movie or whatever, and some things were leaked or some rumblings were happening about, some people were disagreeing, I would still be very humble about it. I would say, look, I love the fact that you guys love these characters so much that you're having this discussion about it. The fact of the matter is that I won't be able to please everybody if everybody wants different things. All I can promise you is that I'm truly doing my sincere best to do justice to this character and the work they're supposed to do in culture. And, if it's not for you, don't worry. It'll be remade in so many years anyway. I mean, say something like that, but you don't get that from Hollywood. Hollywood types don't have that humility or that respect for the franchises. All they have is condescension for you because how dare you little peon, come tell them what they, the great artiste, should do. How dare you? You don't get that kind of humility or consideration from anybody in Hollywood, and they shouldn't be rewarded for it. Don't go see the film. Stop clicking on news stories or videos that talk about it. Just ignore it. Again, apathy is the only thing that will get through to them. Whether it's Disney, Warner Brothers, or whatever, apathy is the only thing that will get through to them. Your hate, that's not apathy. Your outrage, that's not apathy. Start ignoring them. Start letting the movies just bomb. Start letting them bomb without anybody even acknowledging that they're bombing. Solo: A Star Wars Story was a beautiful, beautiful thing that happened to that movie. It came out and just nobody cared, and it was beautiful. And it's the only thing that got Disney to turn their head around. Now, they didn't change. They just learned how they could manipulate you better, and you fell for it. Senator Griffith said Peter Jackson is the prime example of humility toward fans. Right off the bat, I'll have to get you to tell me, Senator Graver, some of the back and forth or whatnot he's had with fans, because I don't really know. I wasn't really following the news when Lord of the Rings was coming out. I saw the movies and loved them, of course, but I wasn't really following his press releases or anything like that. I know he was talking about his love for the lore and really wanting to do it correctly. So I'd have to know more about that, but that's a good point. Spidey Rule says, remember all of the horrible event comics that Marvel released back in the 2010s. Tom King actually managed to write an event comic that is worse than all of them combined. H in Crisis. Tom King what has he done that's good? What has he done that's good? The start of Rebirth had promise, but once you know that he was writing Batman just to get to the stupid wedding thing that he wasn't going to let have anyway, you just that any of the good from that doesn't count, because he was just setting you up for a fall. Yeah, I do not get why that man still gets work. Luis Sanchez, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Very much appreciated. You said the people who create these stories have utter disdain for the IP and the fans. Yeah, and it's gotten to the point too, where just don't give me any Superman stories. Don't give me any more Star Wars stories. Don't really go do new stories. Because nostalgia is so popular, Hollywood is just determined to rehash everything because they think, and again, I've talked about this before, it's just such a stupid move on Hollywood's part. The reason why they they only want to invest in something that already has a built-in audience. That's why they want to redo this or redo that, and even like television, bringing back this show, redoing this movie, rebooting this franchise. They think it's a safer bet because you got a built-in audience. But if all you're going to do is ruin that franchise with that built-in audience, you might get a little bit of spectacle money, unless it's something like Star Wars that you keep milking people's hope in a civil war and so forth. It's just you're milking it dry, Star Wars isn't going to keep giving the money. Once they show their hand again, I wonder, once they show their hand again in Star Wars in the movies, and once they run it into the ground again, the Filoni fans aren't going to be able to keep pretending that he's their savior. Ahsoka came out and just nobody was impressed. Even Big Al, who just, pretends he likes everything Disney Star Wars, the best he could muster for Ahsoka was me. So there, that little ploy they did with the whole Mandalorian Favreau and Filoni thing, that's doesn't have much steam left in it. Are people so stupid? Are fans so stupid that they're going to fall for another, little bone being thrown at them? Probably, but it's an interesting thing to see. Andre Hernandez says, would you have liked Batman actually marrying Catwoman for the future? Or does he deserve better? What is the direction Batman should go in the future? I think if you choose one character, I don't think Batman needs to get married. I'm not arguing that he should get married, but I think that Catwoman is the one love interest that's best suited for him. Now, a redeemed Catwoman, mind you, which is what it was looking like there before they pulled the carpet out from under you. A redeemed Catwoman, because she knows the lifestyle. She can even be in the lifestyle with him. It's and there are other fun love interests. Don't get me wrong. I like Vicky Vale. I like, some of the other interests he's had. But I even like the occasional Batman Wonder Woman, chemistry that happens and so forth. But I think if you choose one, it's got to be Catwoman for him. That's just so many years worth of comics. But I don't think he has to get married. But that's what that story was about. It was leading up to a wedding. It was making us want it, promising us. There were really cool stories about, the dynamics of the family. Now, I hate Damian Wayne. I think he's a crap character. I don't know why people latch onto him so much. But they were even, Super Sons even had a way of kind of, making him palatable. And there was even a really cool little story about Catwoman in him, having an understanding that was neat. So that, they were building people up for that. They were making people want that, and fine, but then to not deliver on it was just pure Dan DiDio, pure, oh, we gotta subvert their expectation, we gotta shake it up, um and Tom King, pure Tom King too. So uh yeah, how does he keep getting work? Senator said the cash cow is going to keel over soon. Yeah, you would think, right? And I hope, but if it does, though, they'll just find something else to ruin, something else to deconstruct. I mean, that's how the ideologues work. They only want your franchises, not because they've always loved them too, like they pretend to say, or they try to pretend. They want them because it's something you're paying attention to. And they want to go where you're paying your attention so that they can put their messaging in front of you. And when you stop paying attention to it, then they'll move on to whatever you're paying attention to, and they'll try and take that over and put their messaging in front of that. The ideologue is only about preaching a message to you, um, which of course ultimately destroys whatever fandom or franchise they try and overlay that message on, and they'll just keep doing it. So the best thing to do is to ignore them, to make them irrelevant, make them culturally irrelevant. That's the thing they can't stand. Oh, this is the most terrible thing to them. They won't abide that. If you really want to hurt them, you can take away their money. So at least we still get to tell you how the world should be and how you should be in the world and remake things for you. There's a great song. Check my time here. Yeah, I got a little bit of time here, 10 minutes or so before we wrap up. There's a great song. It was an old punk song, I think, but Alice Cooper did a remake of it on his Detroit Stories album. It's called Our Love Will Change the World. Go look that up. After this stream, go look up Our Love Will Change the World. Look up the Alice Cooper version. There's a really cool little video. And the lyrics, it's so great. And it was kind of back in the day, I think it was kind of a critique on hippies and their, kind of stalwart way of, because you can't help if you define yourself by being against something, then you become the thing that you're against. And all the hippies talking about down with fascism, man. I mean, what are they now? They're the fascists now. They're the ones trying to regulate culture and dictate and all this kind of stuff. And the song is the lyrics are so great. It's like, our love will change the world. Our love will change the world into a strange place that you'll hardly recognize. But you'll get used to it. You'll get used to it, just shut up and take it, and it's just such a profound song for being sort of a funny song. Look up Our Love Will Change the World by Alice Cooper. It's such a good one. Have fun with that. Gentle Savage said, yo, Prof, have you ever read the Ninja Turtles Last Ronin story? No, I am, so it's probably one of the only good recent Ninja Turtle stories to come out in the last 5 years. I've heard that. I've heard great things about it, but I haven't read it yet. I haven't read any Ninja Turtles comics. I showed it. I was going over my Christmas haul a couple streams ago. My sister did get me volume 1 of IDW comics. And I'm looking forward because my understanding is that they were pretty good for a while, the IDW comics, until, some of the recent stuff came into it. But yeah, I haven't read that yet. I've heard great things about it, though. I don't know if I'd like it or not. The premise, on the one hand, seems a little, I'd be hesitant about it. On the other hand, I've heard so many good things about the way it's done. It sounds like what you're saying, too. So, yeah, I will read it at some point once I get to it, Under Hernandez, I've wondered if Batman, who is supposed to be aspirational, should get with a thief like Catwoman. Does it ruin the aspirational hero archetype? Well, again, I say a redeemed Catwoman. A Catwoman who's he can't be with Catwoman if she's still a criminal. That doesn't work. They can have that. She starts as the femme fatale, right? So there should be some sparks. There should be a little bit of, chemistry, definitely. But he can't actually start a relationship, a trusted relationship that implicates him in her actions if she's still a thief. So very careful to say a redeemed Catwoman, definitely. She can still be dangerous, but she's the femme fatale that actually becomes the love interest, you know? All right. Check the time here. Gonna wrap up in a few, but just checking in with things. Gentle Savage also says, off-topic question, but what are your thoughts on the Planet of the Apes movie series in general? Does Caesar in the reboot Apes trilogy fit the frontiersman archetype? I have not watched any of the recent ones, the Caesar, the Matt Reeves Planet of the Apes. I've watched the first Planet of the Apes movie with Charlton Heston, which I thought was great. And that's it. I know. There's loads. I know some people really get into it. I know there's a ton of movies. There's TV series. I do have a comic book I bought. It's a nice hardbound comic book, which I bought because it was a decent price. I thought this would be something to have. I'd like to read it one day. But it was Planet of the Apes, and Green Lantern crossover, which I thought was an interesting crossover take. But yeah, no, because I'd never, before I watched any of the remakes, I'd want to go back and watch some of the classic films still. I know, like, as sequels of franchises do, some of those were kind of, some of them were better. But I don't know. The remakes, I don't think they're bad. I mean, I haven't seen them. They look pretty decent, whatever. People said they really liked it. I just don't know if I'd have a huge interest in it. I don't know. One day I'll give it a shot and see. But yeah, just hadn't been something that really attracted me, taste wise. Ooh, interesting. Darth Enigma says, are there any love interests you prefer for Superman over Lois Lane? Over Lois Lane? Absolutely not. Lois Lane is custom made. She's part of the Superman package. And she should be there. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Shoot. There was a quote that a writer wrote about Lois Lane, why she's so perfect for Superman. And I think it was Dean Tripp that had the quote. Yeah, okay. I think if this is right. I made a meme of it once and everything too for a Superman page I did once, but I can't find the sorry, I won't keep looking for it here, but it's a good one. All right, let me see if this has got the whole quote. I see a bunch of clips of it. All right, Superman is about someone trying their best to save the world, one day at a time. And it's about that person's love for that one whose intellect and emotions and sheer bloody humanity completes him. It's about Superman. It's about Lois and Clark. That's all there is. No, that's not the whole quote. That's Warren Ellis. Where's the Dean Tripp quote? Okay, maybe this is it. That's Greg Rucka. Anyway, I won't keep going. I know this isn't really scintillating live streaming, just having me search for something. but there's a great quote about just how Lois Lane is kind of jaded, and she should be kind of jaded at first. And she sees somebody who talks about truth, justice, and the American way, and actually wants to make a difference, but is actually making a difference. It's like Superman comes into her life and is able to crumble all the jadedness in her, because it's somebody with the power to change things that is actually using that power, is actually not disappointing her. And she's always wanted, to change and help things, help people too. She's that military brat, she's got that that grit, about her and stuff. And it's just, you can't beat that. They were just custom made. There are other fun love interests for Superman, don't get me wrong. Fun dalliances here and there before he and Lois are really together and so forth. But yeah, for me, Lois is it. Another super chat here, Gentle Savage. Thank you very much, sir. Said, how do you write characters who are smart or are supposed to be smarter than you? Examples are like Grand Admiral Thrawn and Sherlock Holmes. You mean smarter than me as a writer? Like if I'm going to write a character that's smarter than the reader? I mean, you don't have to, your characters they're not bound by your own intelligence level. You can do some research. You can, it sounds like, though, with Grand Admiral Thrawn and Sherlock, the examples you're giving, these are sort of detective-like archetypes, even though one is a villain. Really, characters who know the machinations, have their own machinations, and figure out the machinations of others. Know they're always like 3 moves ahead of you or of other characters. They know what this character is going to do, and they figured out what the character would do if they do that because they saw them do this and so forth. Carefully. That's my answer. How do you write those? Very carefully. It's so easy to come across as trite. It's so easy to come across as staged. Sometimes Sherlock can come across as staged, to be honest. Thrawn was done so well in that original trilogy. It's done with a lot of feedback and revision. Be open to hearing critiques about those kind of characters, because those kind of characters take a long time to really get right. And be open to criticism that you'll get from readers, readers that you trust to give to your work to, and get some feedback on. It's usually going to take a little bit of polishing to get those kind of characters right. I know maybe that's not the answer you were looking for, but that's what comes to me right now off the top of my head, giving you this here. I'm going to wrap it up here, though, because I'm at my hour mark, and especially doing the stream just before this one, I'm a little wiped. I see Samuel Proctor said rewatching the Disney Hercules. Oh, it's such a good movie. Disney's Hercules was such a good one. Just noticing that this specific one reinterpreted it to be more like Superman. Oh, yeah, Meg Megara is 100% 1940s Lois Lane too in that Hercules movie. It's so wonderful. In fact, sometimes when I teach Superman to any extent in my college class, I'll show the Hercules movie because it's basically a Superman movie in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's a great one. Recommend that. Zochio said the reason my previous question is important is because I definitely don't want to be put on blast on this channel. What previous question were you talking about there, Zochio? So many comments are popping through that I can't. Oh, you say currently working on a story involving Mickey Mouse, Pooh Bear, and Pete the cat. Pete is going to kill in my story. Is that a bad idea? I mean, that's a vague, or it's a general question. I can tell you personally, I wouldn't be interested in reading a story myself in which you had a character like Pete, who's a comic or a cartoon character, who killed. I would have no interest in that myself. But without reading the story, I can't tell you if it's well done in your story. I just know that I personally wouldn't have any interest in it. Because even a bad guy like Pete from Steamboat Willie, that version of Pete, even, I just, I kind of liked Kingdom Hearts 2 when you had modern day Pete was working with Maleficent, still not a killing people bad guy, but, really trying to cause some trouble. And they went back and saw Steamboat Willie Pete and realized that he was just kind of a rascal at that point, but he wasn't really bad. He was a bully, but he wasn't, evil. Yeah, I don't know how to really answer that without reading your story, but I wouldn't read your story, not because it's your story. I'm just being honest with you. I wouldn't be interested in a story like that, So maybe I'm not the best one to ask about it, not judging you right now, for that question or anything, or putting you on blast, as you say, but I appreciate the question. Yeah. Sound Engraver reminding us that she has a stream at 5:45 p.m. tomorrow night. And I'll wrap things up with the final super chat here from Louis Sanchez. Can't somebody at WB please hire Brad Bird and Paul Dini to make a Superman movie? Yes. Nobody will, because that's the right thing to do. And Warner Brothers is doubled down. They're legally obligated never to do the right thing when it comes to these characters. But that's the Superman movie that everyone's always wanted and that they will refuse to ever give us, is Paul Dini write it and Brad Bird direct it. Brad Bird, of course, from The Iron Giant, The Incredibles, and so forth. Never happened, but I agree. It'd be wonderful. So thank you guys for hanging out. Studio Super, see you popping in there just at the very end, but good to see you there. I am going to go ahead and wrap things up. Great to see everybody here. We will you can join Sound Engraver stream tomorrow at 5:45 on the moral bankruptcy and fiction. It'll be a good stream. She's talked to me a little bit about that. Hope you guys have a good week. I will put out some videos this week and before them, but don't forget Friday night, doing part 3 of Dark Empire, me and Al, and then I'll be back Saturday night for another live stream, office hours. So been great hanging with you guys. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper responsibly into the true stories you love. Thanks for watching.